Are you able to admit when you're wrong? Hey, everybody, welcome to Anita's Wednesday Wisdom Highlights. Drop a comment, an emoji, something, let me know who's watching. I wanted to talk a little bit about this today, about admitting when we're wrong, because I know I'm probably not the only person that's had this experience, but how many of you have some people in your life, or maybe have known people in the past that could just never admit that they were wrong about anything? They tended to have that attitude that, well, if somebody else hadn't have done this, then I wouldn't have had to do that. They always have a justification for their behavior, or they always blame it on someone else or blame it on the circumstance, but they never really come right out and say, I was wrong. I shouldn't have behaved that way, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, or even just passing information that is incorrect. Oh, well, I thought it was this and I thought it was that. So, they always have a reason for why they got something wrong. And I have to admit, as much as I'd hate to say it, I used to be that way when I was younger. I had a hard time admitting I was wrong when I'd make a mistake, or when I'd behave badly, or hurt somebody's feelings. I had a hard time saying that I was wrong. I tried to justify it. That's what I learned. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I grew up with. I learned that behavior. And over the past 20, 30 years since I started my personal growth journey, I've really worked hard at learning to own up when I am wrong, because we all make mistakes. We all mess up. We all get information incorrect sometimes. We all say the wrong thing, or hurt someone's feelings, or behave badly, or something. And there comes a time when we need to say, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And in the past, it was so hard for me to do that because I had such a low self-esteem, such a low self-image, and I would beat myself up so severely if I had made a mistake or if I was wrong, that I never wanted to admit I was wrong, because I beat myself up so much. It was painful. And I've learned that it's absolutely liberating to admit when you're wrong. It actually gives you so much freedom, and not only for you, but for the other person. It really helps to restore the relationship and restore the trust when you admit that you're wrong, because usually the other person knows that you're wrong, and you admitting it just proves that you have character. So let me just encourage you today. If you happen to be one of those people that have trouble admitting that you're wrong, take a look at that and just say to yourself, how can I admit when I'm wrong? And if you have trouble with that, give me a shout. Let me help you, because I've worked through it myself. It is difficult sometimes to admit that we're wrong, but the more you do it, the more liberating it is, and the more restoration you see in your relationships, which makes such a huge difference in your life. Just to give you the other side of the story, on the other hand, today I was working with a coworker, and they had given me some information that when it came time for me to look at the information, I realized there was an error. And I said, is this what you meant to send me? And they said, oh, maybe I goofed up. Maybe I made a mistake. Let me check. And how refreshing and how, encouraging it was that they were so willing to admit that maybe they made a mistake. And I didn't have to defend myself, and I didn't have to argue, and I didn't have to prove my point. I just said, hey, was this information correct? And they were more than willing to admit, hey, maybe I goofed up. It's liberating for not only you, but the other person involved. So just thought I'd mention that today. See what you think. Drop an emoji or a comment. Tell me what you think. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye.